Good evening, everyone. Another episode at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen, and this is your host, Seda Röder speaking. Um, I am really, really happy about tonight's guest because, I'm hosting a legend in his kitchen. Well, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me Jeff Burton in his kitchen. Hi, Jeff, how are you?
Hi, Seda. I'm fine, thanks. And it's not night for me. It's about lunchtime,
I
and
know,
there's
yeah,
sunshine.
exactly. You're in California, and we are in Europe, in Salzburg here. Let me just introduce you to the audience. You're a legend. Lots of people know you already, but let me just say a few words still to lead into the into tonight's chat. I feel now weird saying tonight all the time, but please do, please do bear with me. So Jeff Burton is one of the co-founders of Electronic Arts. Everybody knows this company. We've been playing the games, and we've been, you guys have kind of determined a certain lifestyle of a huge age. And before that, you were at Atari, so you have like one legendary company after the other on your resume. And now, after leaving Electronic Arts, you had lots of experience in different companies, and you were also leading Skydeck at Berkeley University. And now you're advising startups all over the globe. And now you have your own venture, Woodside Creek Ventures. So, Jeff, we have to talk about it. How did it all start? Let's just give us some of the insights. I know the story, we've been talking about it many times, but we have to once again hear it because it's such a good story.
Well, I don't know how good a story it is, but it started after I left business school, which was in 1978. And I went to work for a company in charge of their international business development. It was a medical instruments company in Southern California. I moved to Newport Beach, which was a gorgeous place to be. I had a view, I had an apartment right on the beach, my wife and I did, overlooking Balboa Island, and it was just gorgeous. And I developed the business, the international business, over a period of 3 years, just wonderfully for that company. So it was great for me, but in that interim, and during that time, I came back to the San Francisco Bay Area and visited my friend who was a classmate of mine who, right out of business school, joined Apple when he was employee number 52 or 35, I don't remember what it was, early on, 1978, and the company had only started in 1976. So he joined that, and I went and visited him, and he showed me a VisiCalc on the Apple II. And that's the first spreadsheet I'd ever seen on a home computer. And it made me, it was like an aha moment for me. Mm-hmm. I realized that I was in the wrong business, in the wrong industry. Healthcare or medical instruments would be great, especially if they were making ventilators, but they weren't. But I didn't know how to see that coming. So I immediately saw that the computer at home would be a fantastic device.
Yeah.
So I actually quit my job at the Southern California. I was like vice president of international business. Quit that without any job. My wife and I moved back up to the Bay Area, and I started looking for a job in the computer industry. And at that time, I didn't care what kind of job it was. I just wanted to be international. Yeah. And I had a Stanford undergraduate friend who at that time had become the chief legal counsel at Atari. And so he called me and asked me to do him a favor with one of the children of one of their biggest customers, giving him a tour of the Stanford Business School, which I did. And then my friend called me and said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Oh, funny you should ask. I'm looking for a job in the computer industry that's international." He said, "Listen, we just opened our international computer business. Why don't you come interview with the guy we just hired from Harvard? and see if, if there's a fit. I was working there 2 weeks later. And
Awesome.
so that was great.
And so we will also talk about the beginnings of the electronic arts, of course, because it's also a very cool story with the dinner with your friends.
Yeah,
but before that, we need to go back to what we will be doing for ourselves in our respective kitchens. So what are you preparing, Jeff? You have 3 ingredients.
3 ingredients. Yep. Okay, so in my house, dessert comes first. And that's easy because I live alone. So I can make those decisions. But I'll see if I can show you here the 3 ingredients. The 3 ingredients I'm going to use are butter. Butter makes everything better. I think that was a quote from, what's her name? Anyway.
Yeah, it's called sugar. The butter, the better.
The butter, the better, yeah. And then fresh blueberries. So I'm going to mix those in a saucepan because it doesn't splash out as much, and just saute the blueberries in the butter and sugar, and it makes a fantastic, it's very quick, very easy, and it's just a great topping to put on vanilla ice cream. And every time I've served it, it gets rave reviews when I have people for dinner. It's a very quick, no thought kind of dessert, but I thought I would share that because it's so easy.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I'm also going for something along those lines. Actually, I would need your topping on what I'm preparing. I'm doing banana pancakes.
Oh, yes, you do need my topping.
It's actually, I mean, if you don't count butter as an ingredient, which we sometimes, depending on how complicated things are, I was like, okay, salt, butter, and if you're using
those are just
those are okay to add. So it's actually just 1 banana and 2 eggs. Depending on how many you want, you can just increase the number, and then butter. And then what you do is just be loud for a second. So you just exactly. You have to go crazy. Mix it, and then put the butter in the pan and just start frying. Actually, it's also very easy. And then you can put some powdered sugar on it, which I'm going to do, of course. Yeah.
You do need my topping because
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic on banana pancakes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, my mother puts also some vanilla sugar in it. So you can
vanilla sugar. I don't know what that is. Vanilla extract?
No. Oh, yeah. Actually, in the US, you guys don't really have vanilla sugar. So it's sugar that's already enriched with vanilla. So
wow.
Exactly.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. Wow. You can take also bourbon vanilla and then scratch it into the mix. So let's do whatever we want to do. At the same time, we need to also get rolling in terms of the conversation. But let me also add that we have a Slido. So if you guys have any questions out there you want to ask Jeff, Burton, this is your chance. Our event code is 22746. And I will be checking the questions right before we start cracking jokes. And so tell us about this really fun dinner with 6 Stanford graduates. Suddenly you get the call and it's like, take it or leave it.
Yeah, the guy that pulled us all together is named Trip Hawkins, and he's a brilliant guy, Harvard undergraduate and Stanford MBA. And he and another of our class, we were in the same class at Stanford, and another of our classmates named Bing Gordon, who was an English major at Yale and a Stanford MBA. The 3 of us plus 3 others that Trip selected, Bing and I didn't necessarily know the other 3, but we knew that the 3 of us were friends. Tripp had made so much money at Apple that he was able to, at age 28, have a beautiful big home in the hills of Portola Valley, and a housekeeper. Um, I Nelda, I believe was her name. I was trying to remember her name. Nelda was a housekeeper, I think. This was 40 years ago. But Nelda made a dinner for us, and the six of us came over to Tripp's house for dinner. And we sat around until late into the evening, getting to know each other and talking about, what kind of company we would want to start together, and how we would want it to feel, and what would motivate us to leave our executive positions. We were all in executive positions. Bing was in the advertising agency business. Tripp was at Apple in charge of marketing for the Lisa machine, which failed, but he was the marketing director for that. And two of the people that joined us, Dave Evans and Pat Marriott, a woman, they were both people that had worked with Tripp at Apple. Then we had the sixth person was Rich Melman, who was vice president of VisiCorp, which was the company that had created the first spreadsheet called VisiCalc. So Rich was a Berkeley, a Cal undergraduate in physics, and then he'd gone to Stanford Business School, and then gotten into public relations. And so he knew Tripp from his experience at Tripp's experience at Apple. So the six of us were all fascinating. Over that evening, we got to know each other, and I realized it was the most talented group I'd ever been a part of. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't turn this opportunity down.
Yeah.
It was just you feel it when there's the right chemistry with a group. Everybody was more outstanding than the next. So I thought, okay, this is time. So I quit my job at Atari, and the president of Atari International called me the night I announced I was leaving. And he said, Jeff, you can't leave. You were one of our first employees. We're depending on you. You're part of the team. This is the most important company and best company in a lifetime, and a generation. And Warner Communications, who owned it, will always have a job for you, and it's you just can't do it. And I said, Tony, look, I understand you're saying all that stuff, and that's very nice. I appreciate it. But I made my decision to join my college, my business school friends.
Yeah.
And we were on the phone, and he said, okay, then I will personally make sure that you never get a job in Silicon Valley again.
Nice. How lovely. Well, you guys had a great company culture, obviously.
Yeah, that was Atari's culture. Yeah.
Oh.
If you were with them, you were an enemy, and they were going to try to wipe you out.
Thank you.
So I left. He had me personally searched, had my briefcase searched, and escorted me out of the building.
Yeah, that's nice.
Is that the same as this?
Well, excellent. No, it was just perfectly fitting. Yeah. But so when you guys started Electronic Arts, I know that one of the first things actually you really cared about was the company culture. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you guys were distributing an insider video to set the company culture before even anything else happened. So why did you think that it was so important?
Well, one of the things we wanted to impress, or to create and impress on our employees, was that we wanted to have people feel free to speak up anytime they felt the necessity to do it, or had some strong feelings about something we were doing in the company. We wanted them to feel free to make that expression and bring it to the forefront. And we also wanted everybody to kind of understand where we were all coming from as we started, that it was not going to be easy, that we were trying to bring the emotional experience to video games. And we wanted everybody to have that in their minds. What was the mission of the company, and how were we all? What was our attitude toward this endeavor? And so by having this video, it was a long one. It was like 45 minutes. It went through our marketing, our sales strategy, our development strategy, our PR strategy, and everybody that joined the company saw that video.
But
So
why
really
did you
good.
guys make such a secret out of it? I mean, why wasn't it? Because I mean, people are talking about it, but I don't know anyone except you or your employees who've seen it.
It was private.
Well, there are lots of private things that see the light of the day.
Yeah. Well, that was 40 years ago, so I guess it's, and I've shown clips from it for many years in talks. It's really a talking heads video. I mean, it's close up, like this, everybody, and there's a dark background, and they're just talking about, how we are going to accomplish what we think is necessary.
That's such a cool. So and then you were the head of business development for outside of the U.S. I mean, this was a time where people didn't even have computers. How can you start making computer games in a time where people don't even have computers?
Well, that was tough. I mean, I had some friends. I have some friends in Italy that always remind me. I'm still friends with them after 40 years, but when we get together, occasionally they'll say, Jeff, we remember back in the early 80s, and you told us that you were getting into this home computer business, and we thought, what? We'll never need a home computer. What's he talking about?
Yeah.
Crazy. And of course, now they're as computer literate as any of us, and so they just couldn't see that having the ability to use a home computer, they didn't think they'd buy them. We got in a little bit early because there weren't but a few million computers, I think, installed in the United States at that time. And certainly in Europe, there were very few, even fewer. There were Commodores in Europe, I think.
Yeah.
And so we had to wait about 2 or 3 years to really enter the international business. And so I handled sales in the United States across from the west of the Mississippi, all the sales for us for a couple of years before we could really expand into international.
Yeah, can you put your microphone a little closer when you're turning
sorry.
your back, so I can also hear you
sorry.
much better. Yeah, excellent, perfect. But I mean, then you guys grew very fast, and within a couple of years you were ready for an IPO. How come?
Well, it wasn't a couple of years; it was 7 years.
Yeah, well, 7 years is not much, is it?
It depends on, it's relative, because Apple had gone public 4 years after it got started. And that was sort of, at the time, the expectation. After about 4 years, you'd grow and then you'd do an IPO. Well, it took us 7 years. That was long for back in the early 80s. We started in 82 and went public in 89. And one of the things, we were going to go public in 86, by the way, but there was a sudden, I've seen it recently referred to in recent days. There was a big stock market drop in 1986. And I don't remember why, but it was during the fall of when we had intended to go public, so we couldn't do that. So we had to wait another 3 years, or was it 87? Shoot, I don't remember. I think maybe it was 87 when the stock market drop was, and we wanted to go public, but had to wait until 89 to do it. So for us, it was a bit longer than we thought it should be, and it wasn't until the company was doing well. I think we were doing $300 million a year in sales when we went public in 89.
Not too bad.
By 93 or 4, I can't remember exactly which year, we were already to $1 billion in sales. So during that time period, we really took off.
Mm. Oh, there is a question already.
Oh, all right.
It says, did you ever foresee that many people are playing games to earn money today? Esports.
No. The answer is no.
Well done.
Remember, there was no internet back then. So how could people be earning money playing games without an internet? I guess they could do it just by going to a social gathering place and all having computers and stuff. But these, we didn't have laptops, so it was not in our possession.
I remember, just sitting next to my cousin, and they were all older than me, and they would just play games and all sorts of stuff, and we would just sit there and watch for hours. So some people, some people realize that there is a market. Exactly. So,
most of the time, I think that we all face the fact that our parents, I was 32 when we started the company, but still, my parents didn't take me seriously with that. Oh, startup company doing games? What do you think you're doing? And so it was not acceptable, really, at that stage. After a short while, it became, much more understood and accepted. But man, at first, people were just kind of thought it was a joke.
Yeah, there is a dilemma. There is a dilemma, right? You have kids, I have kids, and when they sit in front of a computer and they start being immersed in games and things like that, you get really creeped out, actually, as parents. But there are other parents.
I agree, but it took me a long time to figure out this, but I think it's true, and that is socially, or one of the characteristics that people need to develop, children need to develop, is resiliency and the ability to fail and start again. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing that games teach you when you're playing games, is that you're going to fail more times than you succeed. And yet, because of the nature of the game and stuff, you're willing to start over and try again.
Yeah, and then you can become a zombie coming back all the time.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but it gives you the internal strength, really, to kind of, I think, guide the rest of your life. You learn how to fail and start again. You lose your life in the game, but then you get a new life and you start over.
Yeah, but some people misinterpret that. Some people misinterpret that. Some people think that whatever is happening in the game is also possible in real life, and then they just So
they learn.
Yeah, let's not get that grim. Actually, on the contrary, we have to now start cracking jokes for the ratings. This is the joke part. Do you have a joke?
Okay, I got a joke. Yesterday, I happened to be watching you when you told your joke, one of your jokes, and it was, you said you're 8-year-old. Is she 8-year-old?
Yes.
Yeah. What's her, Julia?
Clara.
It reminded me of a situation when I was 8 years old that really foretold the future for me in jokes. I can't tell a joke, but at 8 years old, I was in the playground at school, and kids, smart-ass kids, were telling jokes, and this one was the question from the kid was to me, was Empire State Building. Catch on? All right. So there's an idiom in English, in American English, that catch on, which means, do you understand? Are you with it? You
did?
So it was Empire State Building, catch on, and I said, no, I didn't. And the response was, well, you better, or you're going to fall off.
Oh.
Well, I thought, well, that kind of made me feel stupid. So, but I thought, okay, I guess that's a joke. So I went home, and my family never let me forget this. I told that joke to my family. And yet what I said was Empire State Building, get it? And they said, no, we don't get it. What? I said, well, if you don't, you're going to fall off. Oh, that's not right. I forgot the catch on part.
Oops.
I thought I just interpreted it as what it means, which is get it. Yeah. It didn't work in the joke. Well, that was apocryphal. I've never been able to tell a joke since.
So you're like joke crippled.
Yeah.
Oh, but
what is it called? Yeah.
What is it called?
I was just thinking. I was thinking what the term is. It's not crippled exactly. It's I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, I'm joke crippled.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I'm hoping that I'm not being incorrect in any ways. But well, then let me tell a joke. Let me tell a joke. I'm asking my 8-year-old every day, and some jokes in German work really well, others don't. So I kind of try to fit them into the English language. It goes, what does a molecular biologist wear for his first date?
A surgical gown?
Mm-mm. Designer jeans.
Okay. That's not too bad, actually.
Isn't it good? Yeah. It takes a while, but it's like cling.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. And I have another one. I'm learning always two. I'm asking her for two. And Alexa is actually helpful too. You can just ask her, Alexa, tell me a joke, and she just goes like, okay.
I mean, your daughter's name? You have another daughter named Alexa?
No, Alexa is the Amazon loudspeaker.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I was like, can he not know it? Okay. So it goes, what do you get if you cross a dinosaur with a pork?
With a pork? A dinosaur with a pork? With a pig?
Yes, with a pig.
Gosh, I don't know the answer to that. What the hell is it?
It's Jurassic Pork. Ho, ho, ho.
Jurassic Pork. Well, that reminds me of another one I heard on the radio when I was like 18. And it was, what do you get when you cross a dog and a chicken? This was a radio show that was talking, and the people were supposed to call in with the answer. And they had somebody call in and say, they said, okay, so what do you get when you cross a dog and a chicken? And the guy said, this is in Texas. The guy said, a deacon? The answer is barking and eggs.
Oh.
You know that one.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple of really good ones. There are a couple of really good ones. I saw this on the internet. It says, how do you call a person with potatoes and gravy on his head?
On his head? Don't know.
Stew.
Ew. How about carrots too?
Well, okay. So the joke section is now over. I wanna go back to the electronic arts because I'm really interested. Why did you leave after the IPO?
Well, because I could. Frankly, I had so much money as a result of that, I didn't know what to do with it. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was that I had, I'd been working for about, it was about 4 years I'd been working internationally, setting up our subsidiary in London, and then moved the family for 6 months to Tokyo to set up our Tokyo subsidiary. But during that time period, I've been traveling for 50% of the time. So I was spending a week in London and a week in Tokyo every month, and that gave me only 2 weeks left at home. And I had a 3-year-old son and a brand new 2-month, 6-month-old, whatever, daughter. And I just thought, first of all, when I traveled 50% of the time, I was always missing those kids. I mean, I can remember sitting in a lobby of a Tokyo hotel, and I saw an American couple come in, and the father was carrying this, little young son in his arms, and I thought, oh gosh, I really miss my son. I wanted to have him in my arms, and I decided, what's more important? I decided that being at home to raise my kids was the most important thing I could do. So because I could do it, I left electronic arts and just went out on my own.
Yeah, but it's also, getting really interesting right there, because a couple of years later, when you had your divorce, you took the kids and left all the money. So, I mean,
that's what happens in divorces.
Well, usually women will get everything, kids and the money. Well, so you, I mean, it's such an unusual story that every time, when I think about it, I'm really amazed, because, a lone-standing man with 2 kids, doing everything on your own and still running a business. These questions we women get asked all the time, how can you bring business together with family? But how did you do it?
Well, fortunately, I was able to do consulting, and I had enough of a set of contacts out here and in the community, and a reputation that allowed me to do consulting. I didn't have to have a 9-to-5 job, so I could take the kids to school in the mornings. I could be home at dinner time and cook for them. I could do laundry during the day if I needed to, because I didn't have to spend 8, 9 to 5 someplace. I just couldn't travel. That was the thing I couldn't do. But that was, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
No.
And it was on a very limited budget. I used all the money that I made to put my kids through private school. So it was not the situation I had envisioned at all.
Well,
it was worth it. It was worth it. It's only money,
Yeah, absolutely. No, you always say that. It's only money. It comes and goes. It's just a tool to, buy yourself some, some freedom. But the real freedom is not through money. Of course not. And
right,
now,
right. That's the misapprehension that so many. Go ahead. Sorry, there was a delay
and
there.
now, how are you spending your time now? Are you a grandfather yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a 1.5-year-old grandson. Lives in Southern California. My son's a lawyer in a huge law firm in Southern California, and my daughter-in-law is a physician at UCLA Med Center, and they have a 1.5-year-old that is at home all the time, of course, and he's just starting to talk. It's so much fun to see videos. I don't get down there very much because I don't have time to go to LA. It's 500 miles away, and it takes 3 hours minimum on an airplane and 6 hours on a drive. So the airplane is only an hour flight, but the other 2 hours are wasted in the airports and getting transportation and all that. So so I don't see him very often, but we do, thanks to the internet and today's social media, I get to see video clips of my grandson. The most recent one was subsequent to the earlier one where he was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, it's at the 10. And this most recent one was he was counting in Spanish. Uno, dos,
Oh,
tres. I thought,
nice.
that's fantastic. He has, guess what? He has a caretaker all day long at the house. She's wonderful. She's named Carmen. Her name is Carmen. And she is absolutely fantastic with my little grandson. She sings to him and she takes him on walks. They have a routine to go to the park. And I hope they're still doing that, even though we're all under house arrest or whatever. But I think we can get outside, and Carmen is just wonderful. But my grandson's first word was agua.
Nah, well, good word to start with. We have another question here, actually.
Yeah.
So I think we're drifting from the topic, so people are bringing
Uh-oh.
us back.
Uh-oh.
So it says, where do you see the biggest changes for startups in games industry today? Is it VR gaming?
Is it VR?
VR, virtual reality?
Yeah. Oh, I love VR.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that the industry's not quite mature enough to have VR gaming be a huge thing, but there are certainly some VR games. You know, the most popular one is, I think, still, although I've heard there's some others, but a year or so ago, the most popular VR game was Beat Saber, and that was started by a musician.
Ah,
Fascinating to me. He wrote, he loved to write music. And so he composed the first set of music and got some programmers on board to do the programming for this fairly simple virtual reality game
mhm,
where you have lightsabers, and there's things coming your way out of the distance, out of the
mhm.
things. They're cubes, I believe, and you have to slash them and beat them up to the music, and they're moving at the music rhythm and stuff.
Ah,
So
that's
it's
awesome.
quite fun. I was surprised. It's a lot more fun than I thought it would be.
Well, there's a 3D Jeff Burton who is dancing Gangnam Style.
Sorry, what was it? What?
There is a 3D model of you dancing Gangnam Style.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was
That's
actually made a
hilarious.
number of years ago by a company at Skydeck, one of the startups I was mentoring at Skydeck. Yeah, Gangnam. I can't do that.
No, I'm not going to ask you to dance Gangnam Style now. But
Wouldn't be able
so
to. Yeah.
what is an innovation that kind of really makes you think that it's super cool, that's really helpful, it's going to change the game?
Which kind of innovation are you asking? Is that right?
Yeah.
Question. Well, okay. So at my stage of life, um, I have decided that what really motivates me and compels me is to, first of all, as a person, I'm always trying to help people figure out how to overcome problems, and as they are doing, handling their startups, getting into starting a business. It's not easy ever. Whether you make a huge business or a small business, it's equally hard. And so I try to help people with that. So I see that that's sort of an educational role. And as a result of that, my thought and my decision is that I'm going to stick with projects that somehow or another have an educational value, because I think education is the most important way that we can um, that we can bring the world together and improve the world across
Mhm.
all cultures. We need to have everybody be educated, and there's still so many billions of people that are way behind in that, and it's possible to gain education online now so
Yeah.
nicely. It's taken a long time and still needs to work out a bunch of kinks, but it is it's the first time in human history, I think, that people from from India or from South Vietnam, well, it's just Vietnam now, can gain some educational training and experience from people in Europe, for instance.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage. And I think it's important. So I try to promote that wherever I can.
Excellent. And see, this is my food.
Oh, that's a pancake. Yeah. I get it. All right. So that means I need to get my ice cream.
This is very good. Mm.
Let's see
Nice
here.
and fluffy. Yeah, it's really, actually, this is a low carb version. All you need is a banana and 2 eggs, and then you suddenly have something sweet. It's really good.
Well, I don't know if mine's low carb.
Definitely not. And what is the technology that gives you the creeps?
Oops.
Hey.
Okay, there we are.
Looks
Actually,
really
the
good.
blueberry.
Well done. Perfect.
What is it? That's what gives me the creeps?
Yeah.
How do you mean? What do you mean? Give
Like-
me the creeps? Did I
like-
say something gave me the creeps?
No,
Just asking from.
what I mean is that's creepy, that's scary, that's something you wouldn't want.
Well, without being too judgmental or without dismissing it completely, I have my concerns about AI.
Mm-hmm.
I hope what worries me is that AI in the wrong hands can really be pernicious, really do some harm. And I don't see how society is going to keep it out of the wrong hands.
Well, probably
So-
you can't. It's like the atomic bomb, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So that's what worries me. But I love stuff that's based on AI. I would say less AI and more machine learning is where I think the good stuff can come from. Big data analysis, that kind of thing, which isn't technically, according to the engineers that I know, considered AI.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Forma.
you ask 10 people, you hear 10 different answers about what it all encompasses, right?
Right.
So I'm just going to have a last look into our Slido, and it looks like we've answered the questions thus far. Excellent. And we're heading to the end of tonight's show. Jeff, so you're now under this shutdown, and you usually come to Europe quite often, so what's next?
I usually spend half a year in Europe, as a matter of fact. What's next? I honestly don't know. We have to get through this coronavirus stuff. I have to stay in the house, which is actually fine with me. But in terms of, the world has been brought to a standstill. I have a proposal outstanding to the government of Ghana to create for them an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Accra.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. They want to do it. They've got the funding, but they have to shut the country down right now. They can't have.
Yeah.
They have to get past the corona danger and crisis, because they're typically their healthcare system isn't as pervasive as the U.S. healthcare system. And look how we're handling it in the U.S. I mean,
yeah, it's not going really well, is it? No.
No. So I don't know when my proposal for Ghana will be activated. So I'm just sort of here twiddling my thumbs. although there's some other things that I'm looking at too to try to make
I mean,
some
but the
activity.
smaller countries are being really harmed by, and developing countries are being really harmed right now with
Yeah.
all of this whole world shut down. Every
Yeah.
time when I have the show,
Yep.
people say, "Let's hope for the best." Some are more positive and hopeful than others. You know, we will
Yeah.
see. I'm hoping that we will be able to handle things in an appropriate and good way. And that your ice cream, it just looks really really good. I think I'm just going to go
It's
and
delicious.
get myself an ice cream too. Jeff, I want to thank you very much for joining in tonight
My
and
pleasure.
opening
Thank
your
you.
home. And I'm really, truly looking forward to seeing you in Europe next time. And I'm hoping that, for all of us, things are going to turn out, in a good way. I mean, people can actually, I think, do the best out of all sorts of different situations. Just, you know, let's keep resilient. Let's
Exactly.
play the game.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right.
Let's
Well, thanks for
play the
having
game.
me. Enjoyed seeing you as always.
See you, guys. So
Ciao.
tomorrow I have Anna Jarocka. She is one of the founding members of Robo Wunderkind, which is an educational robotics startup. So join me tomorrow with her at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for being here, and see you tomorrow night. Bye bye.